Hi everyone, welcome back to FreaksenseTV. I am your host Charlie Freak, and tonight is part two of our trilogy with Santos Bonacci. Last week we had Santos discuss the hijacking of the English language and the replacement with legalese, and what an incredible show that was. And on tonight's part two of the trilogy, this is Flat Earth, why it matters to you, and where it leads us. And I just want to make this comment before Santos gets started. There is a very disturbing trend amongst the truth movement that suggests that flat Earth has somehow died out or run out of steam, and now people are talking about convex Earth and all sorts of different alternatives, or running back to the ridiculous globe model. And even this week, I had a couple of relatively famous truthers ask me if I was still on this flat Earth thing. And as I said to them, yeah, because it's at the very heart of syncretism. It's at the very heart of the truth of humanity. This is essential. It's never going away. It never will. It was always here before the last 100 years of this ridiculous mainstream pushing of the globe model and the Big Bang. And it will always be here because it's the truth. And what Santos is going to do brilliantly on the show tonight is not just show you that the Earth is flat, but why it has to be flat. And this is the key. We want to give you a holistic understanding of this truth. And any truth, if it is the truth, is holistic in its understanding. It has to be. It connects all things, as does flat Earth with regard to human physiology and our experience. So with that, let me introduce Santos Bonacci and say hi. And we're hoping that you're still feeling fantastic and looking forward to a great show tonight.
Oh, thanks, Charlie. Great to be with you again. You always inspire me to do my best, and I think I've only done one show where I got disappointed and I attacked people. You know, when you tend to sometimes when you're in negative mode, you do that, and yeah, that's about all. But otherwise, everyone I've played back and heard, I felt that I was inspired. You know, and I do get inspired by a good interviewer, you know.
Thank you very much, because let me say this once again. You are this leading truther, or what I call the Gnostic warrior, that I'm aware of. You're it. And there is no one else, no other precious resource that understand things completely and holistically than you. So for you to make those comments to me mean the world, because Colleen and I, we think the world of you.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Likewise. The appreciation is congruent with the evolution of the individual. That's how I see it. If I get a negative person writing to me to tell me how, you know, bad I am and evil, etc., and how much they hate me, I just measure in a scale their evolution with the value of syncretism, and it just doesn't match. So it's a very important ingredient for inspiring me in particular to do my best. And I don't like doing or listening to boring interviews. I try to be as informative as possible, and throw in an element of entertainment in there as well, so that, you know, it's enjoyable. But the flat Earth is a subject that is very, very close to my heart. When I became a public flat earther in 2015, I got a lot of attacks. It was hectic. I'd just gotten out of jail. And people thought, oh, well, Santos was not a flat earther before he went to jail. Now he's out of jail. It's obvious he struck a deal with the government. He got let out before time, and he struck a deal. And what the deal consists of is he's got to now talk about this new psyop, right? So that's how they saw it. Okay, fair enough. Well, I've got evidence that I was teaching the flat earth before I went to jail. Okay, and I was studying it since 2014. And why it's so special to me is because I was a Jehovah's Witness for most part of my life, and I knew about the flat earth, and I ridiculed it. That was the position of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And they would pull out, they would pull out scriptures in the Bible. See, Isaiah said that God made the earth a circle. We didn't, So I would use that and turn circle into a sphere somehow magically, and and use false arguments. Of course, a circle is not a sphere. You've got a circle coin here. Here's an Australian dollar coin, gold. That's a circle, but it's not a ball. Yeah. So clearly, there's lots of evidence in the scriptures, which I will touch on because I'm a scriptural person. So I can quote the Quran and the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm all good with that. Okay, so you'll get a lot of so-called flat earth truthers that are Christian, for instance, and all they rave on about is how the Bible talks about the flat earth. No, Ptolemy, the most famous astrologer in the history of the universe, who supposedly Copernicus debunked. Well, it disappoints me being an astrologer to see how many astrologers believe in the moon rock, that the moon is a rock, and they don't read Ptolemy, where he says all of the planets and the sun and the moon are entirely luminous. Entirely luminous. That's why when you go to Wikipedia, they tell you the sun's a luminous ball of gas, Saturn is a luminous ball of gas, Jupiter is a gigantic luminous ball of gas. They're already telling you the truth when they're lying to you. They're very honest when they lie to you. It's just that
they think they need to be.
Yeah. So it's an interesting setup where the herd mind has been indoctrinated to believe in the spinning ball, and no matter how many false pseudoscience arguments they put up, people will not investigate them. People will just accept the lies. And the big lie is the Jesuit psyop, which is globalism, the globe. They started the globe theory so they could set up global religion, global economy, global governance, global warming, and all of this globalism. It's a religion. So the globe is the false idol of the false religion, which is globalism. And see, flat earthers come along and they pull the carpet from under that structure, They expose it. And now the doubt is out there in the internet world. So whether you don't accept the stationary flat earth or not, there's a doubt in your mind now. And it will be there forever and ever. And now it will never be removed. And people like me, when I first became a flat earther in 2014 and went public in 2015, and people were saying, oh, Santos has jumped onto this new flat earth frickin' psyop. Now we know for sure that he was a shill and he was lying from the beginning. See, people don't realize that if they look at my presentations before 2014, you will see me using the Ptolemaic model.
That's right.
It's always stationary Earth at the bottom, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, in that order, firmament, crystalline water, primum mobile, the 10 spheres of influence of the Sephiroth of the Jews, that are above the plane net of the Earth. And so I had that grounding. I had the grounding of the flat Earth, which I've been studying all my life, ridiculing it though, of course. So people thought I came out of nowhere with no background, with no backstory of the flat Earth. I just saw a few videos and thought, yeah, this is something I want to promote now, the flat Earth, as if, I would just turn my back on my beautiful syncretic work that I had laid out beautifully, for the public and published, as if I'm going to desecrate it and fling mud on any of my work. All I did was I enhanced and glorified my work with the true model of the universe. And so it was easy for me to become a stationary flat earther, because I just had to wipe away the ridicule, and the knowledge was already there.
Yeah.
I already knew it was flat. Once I said, now stop ridiculing it, man. Get this left brain, governing mechanism that we all have from the herd mind. Get rid of that. Start fresh. And when I did, I realized I already know it's flat. I've done all my learning. I've been using the Ptolemaic model, but explaining it with the Copernican model in my presentations up until 2015. Then all I did was I removed Copernicus, the Jesuit liar and Satanist deceiver, and then I used the correct Ptolemaic model to explain all those beautiful things in astrology that I teach. Now, no astrologer should be a Copernican. None of them should have joined the Copernican revolution. Not one of them, and yet they all have. Most astrologers out there are committing the two gravest crimes and sins that an astrologer could commit. To ascribe movement to the earth when their own great ones told them the earth is stationary. The Bible, Bhagavad Gita, stationary, never moves. Just consult your seismic machines. They will tell you. And the other aberration is the eating of rotting animal corpse in their diet. It's almost inconceivable, incomprehensible to think that people actually eat animals. And an astrologer doing such a thing? Have they not read Porphyry of 2,000 years ago? Iamblichus, the greatest astrologers who ever lived. We still have the Porphyry house system today, because he was a great, and he wrote treatises on not eating animal flesh and the reasons why. So we have this problem where the ones who should be teaching cosmology correctly, astrologers, have been led astray by Shaitan, and they are deceivers. And to think that they believe that, astronauts went with tinfoil cake mixers and put telephones in there and golf clubs and golf balls. They played golf up there. They called President Nixon a couple of times on the phone. Great reception. Yep. Amazing back then. And all to just have a couple of games of golf and drive their little dune buggy around, put it back in the little frickin' tinfoil cake mixer and fall back to earth. And astrologers subscribe to that, so-called astrologers. So I'm sitting in a very unique position at the moment in the world, in that I fervently teach astrology in all my lectures and presentations and videos, and the stationary flat earth, because that's how astrology works. It doesn't work in a heliocentric system. It simply cannot. That's why when you look at an astrological chart, the line that goes from the ascendant to the descendant is always horizontal. From the AC, I'll change this around for the viewer. The viewer will always have the AC on the left, the ascendant. And it goes up to the MC, then it goes down to the descendant in the west where all the planets descend. And so this turning clockwise of the zodiac 24 hours, once every 24 hours, gives you the rising sign in the east, the ascendant, and the setting sign in the west, the descendant, AC, DC.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, what is that line called? Well, when you go to, I think it might have been Firmicus Maternus of the 4th century, he said it's called the line of the earth, or the line of truth. Why of truth? Because it's that cusp, the first house in the ascendant and the 7th house at the descendant, both of those cusps never move in an unequal house system in astrology. It's always the line of truth, and it's the line of the earth. So you won't see in an astrological chart, you'll see the sun in the 4th house, Jupiter in the 6th, and you'll see all the planets. You won't see the earth around that wheel. And supposedly the earth is also going around the sun, according to Copernicus. So why don't you see the earth in the 5th house? Why can't you say, oh, I've got my earth in the 6th house, conjunct Jupiter? Because the earth is stationary. It's out of the system. Only the planets are conjuncting and trining and sextiling.
Exactly so.
And so the earth, where do you find the earth? Your rising sign. That's how come the rising sign, in my case, Leo, gives you your body's look, your body's energy. In my case, fiery, feline, lion, rah, kind of a, sometimes I'm scary. I see people get a little bit intimidated, although I'm not tall at all. I'm only 5'7" and only like about, I think 123 pounds or something like that, 55 kilos. But I get the feeling that I scare people sometimes just with my presence. I see them get nervous. And then at other times, other people really just warm up to me, because Leo is the heart, the lion heart. So Leo rising people live by their hearts. They wear their hearts on their sleeve. They pour their hearts out. They're very passionate. And so that appeals to lesser, more secure people who are more secure in themselves, and they warm up to it and just open up their hearts to me. So it's a very daunting rising sign, Leo. It's very scary. It's powerful. It's the most powerful. And so, but you can see that in me, you can see that Leo rising, if you know what to look for. And so that's what the rising sign does. It's the sign of the earth. That's where the sign of the earth is, your rising sign. It's always going to be there, fixed and stationary. And it will define, and it will give the dynamic to the individual of their personality, their characteristics, their desires, their passions, their health, and their body, and the personality of their body. So astrologers should not be lost in this argument. They should not be even arguing and debating with silly, futile arguments about whether it's station. Astrology tells you that. The chart tells you that. It's written all over it. It's you read the ancient astrologers, they didn't talk about any earth moving around the sun. None of them did. And I think there are a few mentions of it, but you can tell clearly that because they are the exception, they have been redacted. And that's what the Jesuits did in the 15th century. They wiped out the true history of the earth, packed it up in books and stuck it under the Vatican Library, and went around. A good example of how they went around corrupting all of the indigenous people's stationary flat earth teachings is they would send their missionaries, like Matteo Ricci in the 15th century. They sent him straight over to, I think it was Japan or China or India. I forget. It doesn't matter. Matteo Ricci is a famous Jesuit and a famous, very significant Jesuit in history. And they would be sent out, you see, and they would corrupt the Indians and teach this new global model, because now in the West we're technological, and Copernicus has discovered this amazing truth about our cosmology, that it's we're living on a spinning globe. So the Chinese didn't buy it, and it took hundreds of years. In fact, that's what the Opium Wars were all about, to destroy the Chinese teachings, including flat Earth. They were flat earthers right up until the 17th century, undeniably. Same with India. They corrupted their beautiful teachers with their Jesuit indoctrinations. Now, I've brought it out many times. If you go to Wikipedia and you pull up Pope Paul III, you'll see there in the third paragraph, it says that Copernicus dedicated his work on revolutions to Pope Paul III. And so what do we know about Pope Paul III? Well, he comes from a very, very powerful elite family, like they all do. The Medicis, the Borgia family, the Farnese. In fact, that's who he was. He was a Farnese. I think in English they tend to say Farnese, but in Italian it's Farnese. And Far is Farsi, Persian. And the family bloodline goes right back to the Persian Empire, the Parthians, who always hated Rome and have always been fighting against Rome, even today. Even today, Iran is the enemy, as it was 3,000 years ago when the Greeks at Macedon. Who was it? It was the Persians. And then the second war with the Greeks, when the Greeks defeated the Persians, who were allied with the Egyptians, the Carthaginians, everybody was on the side of Persia, and the Greeks smashed them. And my favorite Neoplatonist and emperor, Julian the Apostate, had an arrow in the heart fighting against the Parthians in 363 CE. He was the one who reintroduced the pagan teachings that his uncle Constantine set up the fake Christian empire, the Constantinian Empire in Nicaea. 40 years later, Julian, the hero, the Neoplatonist, reverts all that and changes and releases everybody from the bondage of Christianity, and they all go back to their pagan ways. But of course, they killed him. He was young. He was only 33, just like Alexander the Great was, whom he said he was a reincarnation of. And so these are the things that I know, you see. I know about these family bloodlines and how the Farnese family, Persians, have systematically set up an empire within the Roman Empire which hates the Christian Catholic Roman system and is trying to subvert it with Jewish and Islamic esoteric, satanic versions of those two religions, and infiltrated with Freemasonry since 1962, since the Vatican Council, the Second Vatican Council. And since then, the Catholic Church has been Freemasonic, which means it is Christian, Islamic, and Judaic at the same time. Okay, so that the West and the Christian model has been subverted. It's corrupted. Not that I'm a fan of corporate Christianity, but I am a Christian. You know, in my teachings, I teach how to be christened and to acknowledge the Christ within. He who denies that Christ came in the flesh is a blasphemer. So I would never do that. Christ did come in the flesh, in all flesh, not the flesh of one man, but he came in the flesh nonetheless. And that's why we have been invested or vested with this Christ consciousness, whether we run away from it or not. It's there. It's the Christ in you, Colossians 1:27. So the Farnese family are very interesting because together with the Borgia family, they conquered the Americas. They funded the conquistadors, and they set up a false educational organization called the Society of Jesus. They were both funded by these two families. So you can see Copernicus dedicates his book to Alessandro Farnese, who creates the Jesuits 2 years before Copernicus releases on his deathbed, or I think it was post-mortem. I think it was, he didn't want to release those lies, because that's why he said in the preface of his work, he said, nothing of this should be taken as true, but only as beneficial to describe certain phenomena. But it is absolutely not a true theory. It's a hypothesis. And he warned people, and that's there to this day, you see. So all of these bloodline families, and the other family, the Borgia family, and the Medicis, and let me think who else, Pallavicini, they were there, Borghese, they were there funding the Jesuits. These are all power families, money families, very powerful, behind the scenes. You won't see them on the Forbes top richest 200. No, they're hiding in the background. They are the true controllers of the system, and the demons behind them are the ones who control them. But they set up this system and globalism. Okay, they are the first globalists because they realized that all of these ships going across the Atlantic, they were crossing a flat ocean and a stationary Earth, and people were just getting, oh, okay, so you don't fall off the end of the flat Earth, and it's but it is flat and stationary, and everything they taught us to make us rubbish the flat Earth is wrong. So people were going back and forth and realizing this. So they had to get smart real quick because they knew that they were funding the corporate takeover of all indigenous lands. Australia, Canada, they planted their Rothschild, Windsor, Vatican flags on there, started a corporation, new business owners. Sorry, Aboriginals, get out the way. We're going to take over all of your Tartarian buildings here in Sydney and Melbourne that have been here for thousands of years and pretend that convicts from Ireland, potato actually built all of these cathedrals they're all built, by the way, between 1850 and 1880. In 30 years, all of those massive buildings in Sydney and Melbourne, the cathedrals and skyscrapers alike, because they built, 20-story buildings even back then in all of history. So what we have is smart people realize that the Earth is stationary because it is, and then it's flat, and all the waters are level everywhere you go. So they undertook a very massive mind control operation. Really, they really went in full force against the truth to destroy and subvert our teachings and, bring us into their new world order. That's the new world order, goes back to the globalism is the new world order. And the flat Earth's going to, the flat Earth's going to destroy it. And that's what I'm here for. I take great delight in destroying the satanic globe, the Santa Ball, I call it. Yep. Nothing gives me more pleasure. Not eating, drinking, sex, drugs, whatever there is on offer. I love smashing the lie. I love it. Love it. Absolutely delight. And no one escapes my knowledge when I talk about the flat Earth and run away unscathed and able to unlearn what I've taught them. They will never be able to deny it because I've got it crossed my T's and dotted all my I's.
And let me want to interject one point here. When you're talking, the families that you're talking about, and then who are the real power figures hiding behind them that are controlling everything, printing all the money. One of the things about this group is that they absolutely are unbelievably cheap. And this is why the great necessity for them as fast as possible to create this Federal Reserve banking system, because it burned them to no end that they had to use their coin to finance their their various devious little schemes across the flat plane. So this is why they needed to push and enforce this illusory monetary system printed out of thin air that they could control, because they didn't want to continue to finance all of this on their dime. One of the things that these families learned, because they were mariners, they were explorers, first in the Mediterranean, then out through the Twin Pillars into the Atlantic Ocean and beyond, is that when the further they went south, all of their little maps and charts about the Atlantic and about the consistencies within the northern hemisphere of travel went haywire once they crossed the equator. And the further south they got, it seemed like everything that they held as absolute surety in the northern hemisphere did not seem to hold within the south. In other words, that constantly their ships found themselves out of reckoning on a daily basis. That basically every day they could be as far as 8, 12, 15 miles off course, and they couldn't seem to account for it until they absolutely realized that the circle was not a sphere, that it's a flat plane. It may be circular, but it's a flat plane. And the further south you go, the wider everything gets, and everything that you hold, all the maxims that you sail with in the north, become different in the southern waters, because they are expanding, not contracting back to some kind of dot on the underside of the ball. So I wanted to interject that point and also bring up to the listeners as well, is that these folks were the ones that created this first globalist monetary system via the high seas, which was these pieces of 8. And again, they're so cheap that they had these silver ore coins made incredibly thin, so that and embossed, so that they could be broken into pieces of 8. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, 2 coins and we're good. No. 1 coin in three 8 pieces. I'm not giving you any more. So I want those 5. I want those 5 bits of that coin back. That's fucking cheap. And that's what you need to know about these people. And this is also how it ties this flat earth thing in, because they hated to lose so many ships in these southern waters. Their ships were constantly running ashore, Cape of Good Hope, Cape of Good Horn, because they were constantly out of their reckoning. So I wanted to insert that and then throw it back to you.
So knowing those navigational problems beforehand, knowing that their New World Order was going to get very, very complex, they set up their GPS, global satellite positioning system, to hide, the true nature of the Earth. And so this is another reason why people, find it impossible that the cosmology is wrong, because satellites, GPS, and all of this technology, airports flying people around the Earth, etc. This all appears to be done on the globe model, but it's not. It's through trickery and many, many, many clever devices and hiding. They've actually been able to pull off that we're on a stationary plane, but they don't hide it. I mean, the military, the Navy, the Army, the the Air Force, they all train their pilots in their manuals based on a stationary, non-moving Earth. So why do they train them with that mindset? They get programmed that everything they learn is based on a stationary, fixed, flat plane Earth. And then what? All of a sudden, when they do all their schooling, they transition into a rotating globe, and now everything that you've learned on a stationary flat Earth as a pilot in your years of training goes out the window because it wasn't real. You know, that would be tantamount to putting square training wheels on your child's bicycle, you know, just so that you can train them on square because, you know, I want them to fall off and skin their knees. And then once they get better, then we're going to give them circular wheels. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. You can't train pilots on a stationary flat plane Earth and then tell them to go off in their profession and forget about that. Don't even talk about it because it's a spinning globe, etc. Well, you know, people don't think. They don't think things through. They're very superficial in their thinking. If you fly from Paris to New York, it takes exactly the same time. Maybe, you know, the winds, that what they call headwinds, you know, you lose a half an hour or something in that 8-hour journey from, say, you know, if you go from, say, New York back eastward to Paris. But flying east to west from, say, Paris to New York, it's around about the same time. So people try and get smart, and this is how they corner themselves. They start arguing that, oh, well, you see, the atmosphere is also going along, and so the Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour. The planes are normally doing half of that, 500 miles an hour. So what you do is you add the 1,000 miles an hour that the Earth's doing, and then plus 500, and that's collectively that's the velocity of the aeroplane. You see, it's 1,500 miles. Well, how does that work if you're flying eastward, the other direction, and that atmosphere is coming at you at 1,000 miles an hour? Do you take it off 500 mile an hour of the plane and say on the gauges and everything, the altimeters and everything on the aeroplane and whatever speedometers, do you then does it say minus 500 mile an hour? Because that would be exactly, if you take the full force of 1,000 mile an hour atmosphere coming to you, and you're going against that into the east, flying into the east at 500 miles an hour, well, then you're actually traveling at minus 500 miles an hour. No, they never do this, you see. It's from Paris to New York, it's 500 miles an hour, and from New York to Paris, it's 500 miles an hour, and it's the same time, right? And so this is that people don't think things through, you know. The angular momentum is different to the velocity momentum of the at the, say, if you go to the equator, which I've been to at Ecuador, shouldn't you sort of get really light-footed there? Like you should be sort of almost flinging off the surface of the Earth because of all of the thrust of the G-forces at the equator? Massive compared to, say, at the North Pole. Why don't they get a camera crew, which they could easily do, and just go right to the North Pole? Go right there. Easy to do. You just go there and you bring a camera. That's how easy it is. Right? So you go to the North Pole and you stick in the North Pole and you just put a camera on top and watch to see if the camera does this. You know, if the camera rotates in 24 hours. And it will be so slow. You know, you can imagine the North Pole, the camera going around in 24 hours, it does one revolution, right? It just doesn't make sense. And then you go, and surely you would be as heavy as a freaking 100 elephants as you climb up in latitude toward, the 89th parallel. Here you are on the 89th parallel, right? Or at 89 degrees north latitude. Shouldn't you be just getting heavier and heavier? And at Ecuador, you should be just like, woo, so light, you're falling off. You need lead to keep you down because there's more thrust. Well, no, there isn't. The gravity index is the same, isn't it? There's very little. Some people have argued that it's different. Gravity is more powerful toward the North Pole. No, but it's not. It's the same. It's just that on different parts of the Earth where they measure it, it varies. It's variable, and so that's all it is. But it's consistent all through the Earth, and you can feel it. So if you're in Ecuador, I've proposed this before. If you're in Ecuador having a cup of tea with your loved one, a cup of coffee, and she's sitting opposite you, and she's on the western side of the table and you're on the eastern side of the table. Now, the Earth supposedly is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and your voice travels at 755 miles an hour, I think. So it's considerably shorter, slower. So technically, really, I should be whispering romantic words to my beautiful companion opposite me drinking coffee. I love you, dear. And potentially she would never get that message because my voice is not traveling as fast as the Earth is. And she's always on the western side of me. Whereas when she speaks to me, obviously the effect will probably cancel itself out because she's speaking at 750 miles an hour, that voice is traveling, sound, and I'm coming at her in her direction at 1,000 miles an hour. So potentially we shouldn't be able to even hear each other. Sound waves, light waves, they should be all just getting scrambled and dispersed, and yet everything is uniform. And when you go out, do you feel any tremoring? I mean, we're supposedly spinning, hurtling, wobbling, thrusting, orbiting, rotating, flying at Mach 88 around the sun on a sod of dirt, wrapped in soft ocean water, wrapped in a very, very beautifully soft, butterfly-filled atmosphere, and we are smashing through the space at Mach 88, and you don't feel any slight vibration on this sod of soft dirt flying like this? No. Oh, shit, man. Whoa, asteroid belt. Watch out, Earth. I mean, if that were the case, that we were traveling at Mach 88, during the day for 12 hours, you should be getting compressed by the G-forces. And then at night, when you're at the back end of the globe, thank you, Santa Claus, for all your fictions, you should be pulled off and sucked into the vacuum of the wake of flying at Mach 88. And yet there's no difference. No compression during the day, no decompression at night. Everything's uniform. Why?
Exactly. And this is just common freaking sense. I mean, it truly is. And nobody, as you said, takes the time to think about these things, just very commonsensically. No one takes the time to do it because, as you were saying earlier, they've conditioned a culture where to think is a painful experience. And I don't really need to do it. That's why they've got these scientists. These scientists do that for me. I don't need to think. I can just watch a TV show and my life will be just Jim Dandy. But it isn't. And it isn't because you don't think for yourself. They think for you. And they put this kind of bullshit into your head, and you don't take the time to do, as Santos is suggesting to, just use some common fucking sense and work this out. Again, think of what these forces must be doing to everything inside of us, and think about what's inside of us, like the endocrine system itself. We have so many very fine, delicate organs and systems that are doing miraculous things within us. That, I mean, just precision amounts of secretions that are necessary from moment to moment, daytime, nighttime, and none of this has any effect upon us outwardly or inwardly. It's just fucking bullshit. Use your common sense.
Again, you don't need fancy arguments. You just need your eyes to work out that the Earth is stationary. And I've proposed this example many times as the number one example. You can go out and look at the stars and the configuration of all the constellations, 88 thereof, and you can point your smartphone, as I do, point them up to the stars, and it'll tell you that's Leo, that's Aquarius, that's Scorpio, and you don't have to guess anymore. You know, you just point your phone to it, and on the screen it tells you where the planets are, shows you the ecliptic, shows you everything, right? Now, if you pay attention, like I have all my life, to the shapes of Orion and Ursula Major, and you will find that those shapes of the stars, which are not at the same distance from our eyes, some of them are way, way, way further, according to them, right? So you can go out there year in, year out, and there's no distortion in the shapes of the constellation. There's no parallax between any of the stars and any of the constellations. They all just seem to stay in the same position, same brightness for millions of years. You can go back 480,000 years of Egyptian history, according to people like Tacitus and Virgil, who tell us this information. Diodorus Siculus, all these great historians tell you the Egyptians and the Babylonians stored hundreds of thousands of astrological and astronomical data. And you can go to Lassas in France, to the caves there of the prehistoric, depictions in there underground, and you'll see the constellations of the zodiac at the same shape as they are today. Now, if we're doing four motions, two of which are the sun is hurtling around the center of the Milky Way galaxy at 550,000 miles an hour, and the Milky Way galaxy in itself is hurtling through space at 650 million miles an hour. Shouldn't we be seeing the stars that we are coming towards, shouldn't they be changing in brightness, like getting a little bit brighter, since we're traveling at gazillions and trillions of miles an hour from one end of the freaking cosmos to another? And yet those stars, faithfully and loyally and true, year in, year out, never change in luminosity, brightness, dimness. The stars behind us don't burn out, and we look back and we go, can't see Antares anymore. Glad we got rid of that star. That was a very malefic star in astrology, causing a lot of trouble. So we can't see it anymore now because we've been traveling for millions of years at gazillions of miles an hour. So surely why don't these people think? I mean, Christians who praise God, aren't they telling him, God, if we've been flying around for so fast for so long, can't you give us a few more different stars from time to time? Shouldn't we be seeing a few different ones, a bit of parallax, a bit of change in the sky? This is boring shit, dude. I mean, all I see is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, year in, year out, same freaking boring shape. God, can't you just entertain us with all this flying that we're doing? Give us some value for money, please, dear Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. That doesn't happen. They will never change. They will never
That's
change.
and that's just freaking amazing what you just said. That is brilliant. And of course it perfectly segues in to why. Why won't it change? Uh, because these 12 constellations maybe, just maybe, pertain to something eternal, maybe something eternal on Earth, like the human species, and that it's just constantly telling us our life story, or the structure of our physiology, or the basis to our physiology. Wow, just incredible. Nobody's picking up on this.
Yeah, well, see, again, it's an unthinking crowd that we're talking about. As it says in Scripture, my people are perishing for lack of knowledge. And they don't want it. They're comfortable with their delusions. Why are the stars not changing? Because as the Bible says, it's a firmament. The stars are embedded in the firmament. In fact, the stars are not things, they are holes. That's where the word holy comes from. You see, Jesus with his halo, hallowed, holy, hole, represents the sun, which is a holy hole in the sky, a portal, a wormhole. You know, and that's what Pierluigi Gina, whom I'm going to talk about in a minute, he said in 2000, before he died in early 2000, he says, the stars in the sky are holes. Now, this is a guy who worked with Marconi, inventor of the radio, for 10 years, and who says, the earth does not move, stupid scientists. Wake up. Stop lying blasphemously to the sheeple, the sleeple. And so he was a hero, and I'm going to talk about him in a minute, but he also said that the stars are the ether, and the ether is the solar energy which turns over the stationary Earth, and that is transmitting right-turning magnetic energy into the Earth, and the Earth reciprocates with left-turning magnetic energy back to the sun. And he says there's only two forces in the universe. One moves, one is stationary.
Yep.
And he brought an interviewer into his laboratory, turned on his strobe lights, and showed the shadow moving in the laboratory. He said, see that movement? He says, scientists believe that's because we're moving. But he says they don't know how to think. They are not, the Earth is not moving. It's the field, the ether, the magnetic ether is moving above our heads. This is how the ancients described it. In fact, I've got Atreya Brahmana, chapter 2, verse 7 says, the sun never really sets or rises, in that they think of him, he is setting, quote unquote. Having reached the end of the day, he inverts himself, thus he makes evening below, day above. Again, in that they think of him, he is rising in the morning, having reached the end of the night, he inverts himself, thus he makes day below, night above. He never sets, indeed, he never sets. Okay, so Pierluigi Gina, he makes a lot of boasts. He's a very cheeky guy, Cancerian. And he smiles with tongue-in-cheek when he says, with his toothless mouth, a little old man in his 90s, you know, remembering the days he was working with Marconi, and they both discovered that the Earth is stationary. All great scientists do, of course. They have to hide it. Anyway, Pierluigi Gina says, one night, I had the mayor of town and all the engineers and all the important people of town, and I showed them the sun by night. You showed them the sun by night, did you, Pierluigi? Yeah. What he was telling, he didn't explain how he did it. He just said that. He loved dropping truth bombs like I do. But I like explaining them. I don't like leaving people in to go do their own research. I remember in the Jehovah's Witness days, you know, if you didn't know something, well, they would share some tantalizing fact or something, and then you'd be left, oh yeah, where do I find it? How did you know this? You just have to do your own research. I don't like that. I don't do that. I explain things. I don't describe things. Well, I do, but I don't stop at describing. I finish with explaining things. So let me explain what he was trying to say. He was trying to say that if you get the right viewing material, you'll be able to see the sun hiding behind the blackness on the other end of the flat Earth. It's a magnetic body, and its effect is magnetic. So he must have known how to view it. Just as we have people now using infrared filters on their Nikon 1000s, and they're flying over the Earth and they're filming 1,200 miles of flat Earth all the way up to the horizon. How can all of a sudden, because you can't see that without the filter, you need infrared filter through the camera because it's a long wave and it penetrates the atmosphere, you see. So if you had sort of the other end of the spectrum, blue shift, red shift is of course long wave, blue shift is the little short frequency, very compact packets of high capacitance energy. Well, you can't see very far, you see, whereas the infrared takes you beyond what your eyes can see because they are not infrared filtered. So what you'll see is, a couple hundred miles of flat land, and then it's like, what? Everything just dips over the ball Earth. It's got to be a ball because you can't see. Well, all you do is you get your Nikon, put a red infrared filter on it, and then all of a sudden, thousands of miles behind your horizon with your eyes, turns up. Magic how a camera with infrared filter can just flatten out the ball, just temporarily, just for a photo shoot. I mean, you've got to turn up when there's a photo shoot, guys. You can't just not have your makeup on. So the Earth just gets itself ready and just goes, whoop, look at me, I'm flat, right? And then run away and go back into a Santa ball. It can't happen. And so if any of the viewers are getting irritated at my confidence in the truth of the flat Earth, you can go to my YouTube channel, Mr. Astrotheology, and look up a video, 1 hour and 15 minutes, all the best evidence to smash the Santa ball for all eternity and send it to hell where Satan is and all of his demons and all of their disgusting, disgusting liars. And you'll see a video in my channel, and you scroll down. It's called Flat Earth is Scientific, Globe Earth is Not. And you'll see in the links below, if you do your due diligence and watch all of those links, you'll kiss the Santa ball goodbye forever. You won't be retarded anymore. You'll actually be intelligent like you and I, Charlie. Yeah? That'll be nice if everybody could be like that, we wouldn't have ignorance on this plane. We'd know our shit and we'd know who we are and that we are God with difference. So you'll see there that I spend a bit of time speaking about this guy who's got a YouTube channel. Let me just pull that up while I'm talking. I'll do that in the background. Now, this guy, he takes his camera from East Coast America, mainly, I think he's pretty south, so he hits the southern states. He flies across the southern states over to San Diego or Los Angeles. He keeps it low, and he films northward toward the North Pole, and he gets when he passes the Mississippi, he gets all of the Mississippi, all of it. He gets the Great Lakes, then he gets Canada, then Hudson Bay, then Canada again, and then the ocean behind that, all in one photo. That is 1,200 freaking miles of flat Earth. You have to do that with a little bit of infrared that you pull out of your pocket. You see, globies just don't think. They are stone muddled ignorant, sad to say. Now, I'm going to go into the notes below just to get that channel for you guys. Let's see. The video's titled Flat Earth Exposed. I just don't know what to say. Incredible flat Earth footage. I'll click on that and I'll get you the channel The channel is called Hummingbird. Okay, Hummingbird, one word. There you go. And you'll see 1,200 miles of flat Earth. You see, so when these globies come at you, ridiculing you with all the weight of their knowledge and research and cleverness, they actually don't come with any facts. They just gibber on about what they've learnt, and they're like parrots, repeating, and they're just repeating lies and going around in circles, you know, because we are the ones who actually have science backing us that the Earth is flat.
Exactly.
I can name tens of scientists, the greatest of their time, who were stationary flat earthers and proved it with repeatable, observable, verifiable experiments, not with mathematical formulas. The theory of relativity plus the theory of gravity and theory of the globe and the Big Bang theory and the evolution theory, which are the five most disgusting demonic theories in history.
Yep.
With a few little calculations and numbers, and people get bedazzled and go, oh, wow, those numbers must confirm that's a ball. That's fantastic. No experiments. We've got James Bradley, Astronomer Royal, in 1729, proved the Earth was stationary. He's not a flash in the pan freaking hobo that comes out of nowhere and just makes something up. He's the Astronomer Royal. 150 years later, we've got George Airy, Astronomer Royal, for 50 years, known to be the greatest astronomer in the world at the time, who does his telescope experiment, where he fills his telescope with water to test if the Earth is moving by seeing how the light reacts once it's filled. It's filled with water. And then if he had to change the angle of the telescope once the telescope was filled with water, then he would know that the Earth is moving, because you change the angle of the telescope while you're on the Earth. So when the telescope is empty, so he had a telescope pointing at 5 degrees, I think, and he measured the light coming in, and it hit the back of the telescope where he had a mirror or something to register that light. And then what he did was he filled the telescope and he left it at 5 degrees. He left it. And guess what? The light was still hitting the back of the telescope. Nothing changed. There was no difference. An empty telescope, a full telescope. No difference. The light enters and ends the same. So what you would have to do if the Earth was turning is you'd have to tilt the telescope to 6 or 7 degrees more inclined toward the light that enters here and exits here. Why? Well, it's because, think about it. When it's raining, let's say it's raining, it's really coming down fast, but very, very vertical, okay? Now, you're standing still with your umbrella, you're not getting wet. But if you now go forward fast in a great velocity, you start going forward. If you keep your umbrella vertical as it was before, you're going to get wet because you're now moving into the water and it's hitting your face. What you have to do is you have to adjust your umbrella, tilt it forward, and run with the umbrella protecting you like a shield in front of you. Well, that's the same how the telescope experiment worked, and it proved that the Earth is stationary. Hence, Einstein came out. The Jesuits pushed Einstein out after that with his theory of relativity to disprove the ether, which George Airy proved is turning and exists. And so his experiment was called Airy's failure. Well, it's true. It was a failure. He failed to detect the movement of the Earth. That's what they won't tell you. And then we've got Sagnac, a Frenchman, who had a interferometer, I think it was called. He made a machine to detect any variance any differentiation in the light as it travels north-south and east-west, and all various combinations thereof. He proved the Earth is stationary. Then Michelson and Morley, before Einstein, did a test with an interferometer as well. Earth is stationary. After Einstein, Michelson teams up with Gale. Michelson-Gale experiment confirmed the Earth is stationary. Pierluigi Gina, the only man that is on video with proof showing you how you can prove the Earth is stationary by inviting the cameraman into his laboratory, turns on a few strobe lights and shows this is how you can tell people. It's quite easy, and he's smiling at these people who are still in disbelief, wondering whether this guy's mad or he's a genius. And Pierluigi Gina, he doesn't give a shit what people think. He just says, I fuck with people's heads all the time, man. People don't know the truth. They can't understand what I see and what I know. And it's a shame. He says, scientists are 20, if not 30 years behind. And then Pierluigi Gina talks about his friend Cecchini, a Calabrian like myself from southern Italy. He says he invented a seismic machine that can detect 1/10 of a millimeter of the movement of the Earth. And then little old Pierluigi is going, so what do you think? Do you think the Earth is moving if he's got a machine that can detect? Basically, it's the width of the phallic of a mosquito movement. So if you can see, get a microscope and have a look at the phallic of a mosquito. This is the only thing I can liken it to, guys. You know, in Australia we say it's the breadth of a bee's dick, meaning there's nothing in it. The colloquialism that we use is very fitting. And I would suggest to people who still think they're spinning upside down on a ball to think of that phallic and the seismic machine that can detect the movement. If the Earth moves 1/10 of a millimeter, he says the alarm bells on his machine go off. They go wild because the Earth doesn't normally move. Otherwise, the bells would be going ding, 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 ding all the time, because it would be detecting the Earth moving. So he turns around and he says to the interviewer, what do you think? Is it moving or not? And the guy didn't want to compromise himself by saying, no, of course it's firm. It's not moving, terra firma. He didn't compromise. Very clever guy. He says, well, what do you think? Puts the microphone back in Pierre's face. And Pierluigi says clearly 3 words in Italian. La terra è ferma. The Earth, terra, è ferma. Ferma in Italian means not firm, it means stationary. And so he was emphatic about this, and he was very tongue-in-cheek at the fact that people would be ridiculing him, but he doesn't care because he's a true scientist, and he doesn't work for the Jesuits preaching and propagandizing lies, blasphemous lies for the detriment of humanity. He was a truther, like we are. We are truthers. That's why we're on this show. That's why we're, I'm tired at the moment. I could easily be just sitting back, resting, chilling, having a good time here, healing. But, I'm putting myself out, to, be ridiculed, but at the same time, enlightening those who are intelligent enough to think for themselves. I would like to also read a few other little juicy quotes and things that I've collected along the way, if you don't mind. So, the scriptures. Why is the Quran telling us that Allah made the earth like a carpet spread out? Why is it calling the earth in Revelation chapter 21? Why is it calling the earth a platus in Greek, which is rooted in platos, which is plateau, a plate? And don't we have tectonic plates? Aren't plates just flat? Wouldn't they call them better tectonic bowls? I think, and the aeroplanes flying over the plane net. Why do we have these words? You see,
people are just going to write that off and say, oh, yeah, that's, yeah, well, it's an aeroplane, it's aero, and it's playing in the sky. I don't know how they think, but it's right there sticking out like dog's testicles. The cosmos, the real model that we have is a torus field, and in every torus field there is a component of the torus field which people always fail to isolate and distinguish from the rest of the torus field and to talk about. And that's called the plane of inertia, the block wall, B-L-O-C-H, the block wall. Every magnetic field has this. Every atom has this. And it runs flat across the center of the sphere of the torus field. And that's the plane of the Earth. And you can see Stan Tenen, a Jewish scholar, teaching the apple model of the universe. He opens the apple and there's a flat disk and he says, that is the flat Earth. These are scholars. These are scholars. These are not just idiots. Stan Tenen is a great Hebrew scholar. And so when you realize that we are inside of a massive torus field called the solar system, then we realize that we are on a stationary Earth whilst the torus field, the outer extremities of the torus field are in fact turning above us, and that is the ether. You see, that's the Van Allen belt. In the Quran, in Surah 79, it says, he lifted up its vault and leveled it. You see, the Bible talks about the firmament, the vault. You see, that's where the stars are. And the Greeks said the stars are nailed to the firmament. Well, that's one way of describing them, not explaining them, but describing them as fixed. That's all they're trying to teach by that. They know there's no nail, actually physically, fixing them onto the firmament. They are using these metaphors to help us understand that there are fixed stars and they are in the ether field, which is the magnetic field, which is turning constantly and creating a theatre below on the Earth. The Earth is a theatre. Just look at the word Earth. It's hiding right in the word theatre. It's an anagram. And so Quran Surah 40 says, it is God who made for you the earth a fixed place and heaven for an edifice. 43, he has made for you the earth like a carpet spread out. Bhagavad Gita describes earth as Bhumandala. Well, Bu means the earth and Mandala is a mandala. And we all know that those are flat. You see? So, and it's floating on an island called Jambudweep. I've got some beautiful images here that I'm looking at that I could share with you for this presentation because they are glorious and it shows the true model. I mean,
please do, yeah.
Yeah, there's some great scriptures here that I'm looking at. I mean, I'd love to. Here's Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven," and he created the firmament on the second creative day. Well, that's the blue sky we see. That's a firmament. Those are the waters above. And then it says in Genesis 1, chapter 6, right there in the first 6 verses, guys. The other scripture was Genesis 1:14. So in the first chapter, you've got enough cosmological truth, if you're a Christian or a churchgoer, to really, really rethink your Copernican delusions. It says there, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. Amos 9:6, the one who builds his upper chambers in the heavens and who has founded his vaulted dome over the earth. Proverbs 8:29, he gave the sea its boundary so the waters would not overstep his command when he marked out the foundations of the earth. So, and then there's the scriptures where it says that the earth will be, he has made the earth fixed and firm and immovable. It will not be made to totter, even to times indefinite, even forever. You see, so there's plenty of evidence in Scripture, whether you are Christian and you go to the Bible, or Hindu and you go to Bhagavad Gita, or Islamic and you go to the Quran. You know, I'm just really just flicking through some slides here. I'm not even, I don't have any notes at all for this presentation. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. You know, what questions you throw at, I'll answer. But here's Rubaiyat of Omar. He says, "And the inverted bowl we call the sky, whereunder crawling coped we live and die, lift not thy hands to it for help, for it rolls impotently as thou or I. Here's the Sumerians. The boundary between the primeval sea and the earth, a flat disk, was a solid vault within which was the gas-like atmosphere. The stars, planets, sun and moon were embedded in this solid vault." Here's Anaximenes, Greek philosopher. He described the heavens as a felt cap that turned on its head, with the stars fixed to the surface like nails. Oh, there you go. So that's where I got the nails from before. That's so they're fixed to the surface like nails. Here's Theophilus of Antioch. The heavens, therefore, being like a dome-shaped covering, comprehended matter which was like a clod. Here's Psalm 19:4, which Werner von Braun put on his tombstone. The heavens declare the glory of God. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their utterance to the end of the world. In them he has placed a tent for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. It rejoices as a strong man to run his course. You see? And then the people who mock Joshua, who made the suns, who caused God to make the sun stand still. Notice it doesn't say the earth stood still, because you don't need to say that, because it is still. That's why, even though the scriptures are literary, they still are completely truthful. Okay? And they hide kernels of truth within metaphor, hyperbola, and other such devices, so that the intelligent ones would know how to find the truth. You know, hiding in nutshells, for instance.
Yeah, that's exactly so. And if you read the New Testament, the words of the Christ Jesus are very direct and can be taken very literally. And he points out who the enemies truly are. He points out where the answers lay, and he points out that he in and of himself can do nothing. It is through the Father. And none of this is picked up on by the literalist Christians. And the reason is because they only listen to someone else's interpretation. And that's a very dangerous path to wander down, a very dangerous path.
Yes, brother. That's why the discerning one does his due diligence and gets the rewards. You know, he gets the cigar, not just the pat on the back. Psalm 104:5. He established the earth upon its foundations, so that it will not totter forever and ever. Psalm 33:9. For he spoke, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. In reference to the earth. Job 26:7. I used to quote this when I was a Globy Jehovah's Witness at the doors of many people. He stretches out the north over the empty places and hangs the earth on nothing. Oh, you see, there's evidence that the earth is a ball hanging on nothing. No, the flat earth appears to be hanging on nothing because it's suspended in its torus field by virtue of magnetic force. Magnetism can suspend anything. Anything. You can suspend anything in the air with a magnet. You see? So the Earth as a disk inside the torus field is what it's talking about here, clearly. First Chronicles 16:30, he has fixed the earth firm, immovable. Thank you, Pierluigi Ugina, who has given us scientific proof of this, that the earth is stationary and cannot possibly move at any given time ever, because that's how it was made. You know, it is a creation. It was made. It was created. It's not a construct that come out of a Big Bang theory, you see.
And Nikola Tesla was very, very direct on this as well. He described this as a system of elements versus then a planet. It's not, the Earth is not a planet. It is a system. And to understand this system, you have to understand electromagnetism and the electromagnetic ether. And of course, what Tesla was referring to is that the ether, which is above Tesla, and knew that there was a firmament, and he knew that the ether was above. And like you said, he also knew that the ether above the firmament was solar based, was electrical based, because this is how he discussed this downward causation of electricity, which he then said is what these theorists were using as their basis to invent the theory of gravity. There's no such thing as gravity, which Tesla proved 100 ways. But this natural downward causation is this movement of electricity from the ether above, which is always moving. And this is what you get with Santos, this genius, because it connects all things together in one moment. And in the podcast so far tonight, we got lots more to go, but in the podcast tonight, the most absolute genius line is that the Earth is a theater beneath the moving ether, and that you can find Earth within theater. And that's what it is. And this is what Shakespeare was referring to when, all the world is a stage. It literally is, folks. It literally is. And when you try and share this level of brilliance and complexity with people who think that they're intelligent, who think that they know things, who are globalists, they will just laugh and laugh and laugh because they don't have the first true understanding of the very basis of our creation: electricity, magnetism, the electromagnetic ether, and the very basis or structure of human physiology. And it's a shame. I call it the arrogance of ignorance. And there are so many within the truth movement who purport themselves to be powerful truthers, and they don't know. And I'm sorry for saying this, but it's the truth. They don't know the first fuck about God's creation. And everything that Santos has told us so far tonight, and what he's reading to you in these ancient spiritual texts, they're all telling you the same thing: elegant design. And that's dangerous to the globe heads, because elegant design talks creator, talks purpose, talks connection, talks as above, so below, we're all one, instead of this random nonsense that they've come up with. So do you see the consistency of what Santos is sharing with you versus the outright inconsistent nonsense that you've been taught since you've been born?
The difference is unthinking people opposed to thinking people who think for themselves. So knowledge is the key. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Now, this is one of my great mottos that I follow. I'm a believer in knowledge. So all my life, that has been one of my most important goals,
to acquire knowledge, to know all things, or at least how to know all things. It used to irritate me that we didn't get to penetrate the subjects at school, like physics and chemistry and mathematics, and it was all limited. You know, they could have easily done way, way better, and we could be all knowing. For instance, if they use, as I do, the torus field to model all things, all fields of knowledge, all philosophies, all theologies, all things known to man, based on the torus field. All you have to do is that, and you've got people now who have the model, the way to know all things. You never will know all things because that's not how it works. But you'll be able to know all things, and you'll be able to know how to access it at any given time. So through meditation, see, I love meditation, but I don't do any kind of meditation that people talk about out there in the big bad world. I can prove that I'm a meditator because I tell people that's how I got syncretism, from meditating all day long.
Yep.
Everything I do, take a bath, go for a run, go to the shops, I'm downloading syncretism.
Yep.
I'm watching the ecliptic, the torus field. I'm looking at the words in there. I'm constantly meditating. I've only got one thing on my mind. So I don't get distracted by, oh, gee, there's a ladder to climb as well in the world, you know. You can be successful. You know, you can suck a lot of cess in the cesspool and be successful of it.
And if you ask Colleen, it's the same for me, that I am, if there's anything that I'm truly good at, it's being able to control my brain waves and be able to drop into meditation. And so much of my waking existence is in a meditative dream. And people ask all the time, how are you able to do this and all the chores that we have with the rescued animals and all of that? How do you do all of those things? I don't know. They get done. They get done because I operate through intuition and telepathy, the 6th and 7th senses, versus then being a slave to the 5 physical senses and being ruled over by the moon goddess sin and emotions. I'm not ruled over by emotions most of the time, because most of the time I'm in a very, very slow brainwave state, a meditative state, and things just come to me. And clearly that's how it has to work for you. That's how I know that that you are a profound meditator as well, because clearly this is where all the stuff is coming from. And I like to think that this is tapping into what's called the book of life, which is mentioned throughout the Bible. You know, again, the 7 seals on the back, and this is the Akashic records, and you have to tap into this metaphysically, and that's controlling your brain waves. And if you don't think any of that is real, or you don't buy into any of this metaphysicality, that all you are is what you see and you're a victim of the physical world, then you are a victim of the physical world. 90% of all possibility has just been written off because you're a left brain carnal slave.
Exactly. So
we're just going to say John Lennon. I think you were going to drop in a John Lennon quote.
Oh, yeah, he says there's plenty of room at the top for you still, as long as you learn how to smile while you kill. You see, so there's always that allurement of success and glory and fame and popularity and striving after the wind, as it says in Ecclesiastes. People are striving after the wind in their pursuits. There's nothing. They don't put value on syncretism, the science of knowing all things. So when people who meditate, you know, tell me of how great it is that they meditate, whereas, you know, like basically they're disappearing for an hour and thinking of nothing, that's fine, you know, but I'm not into that kind of meditating. When I go to meditate, I think of everything, and it comes to me. It comes to me, you know. I can understand anything because I think about everything, not nothing. But I'm not saying don't not do that modality. They're two sides of the same coin, you see. But for me, because I love knowledge, it's just pointless not doing it the way I do it, you know. So when people say, well, how do you, what benefits have you got from meditating, Santos? Well, I'll just say one word, you know, syncretism. That's worth more than anything you'll get, healing, whatever you get from meditating, peace of mind and everything like that. I'll happily forego healing and peace of mind for syncretism, happily. But some people don't want the knowledge. It hurts. Oh, my mum, bless her heart, if I start speaking syncretism for 10 minutes, she's like, she doesn't know where to run and hide, because it's just, it goes over the top of my head. So I can't bear it. So some people, they just want to have.
And I think it relates back to Matthew 6:6, and that is one of my absolute favorite passages within the New Testament, and that is when, thy pray, enter into thy closet, and there are no words spoken when you're in the privacy of your closet, of course, which is going within, because the Father knows all. Once again, those who receive from the Father are the penitent man. The penitent man doesn't judge or think before the Father. We receive. And I think, maybe to clarify a little bit what Santos is saying about the silence and meditation, to drop out of the carnal world and into meditation, there does need to be that period of stillness and silence, which, by the way, taps in perfectly to flat earth. Again, it makes perfect sense. But once the connection has been made, the brilliance of it is that you can go anywhere you want to, because the Father knows. The Father knows who you are. The Father knows what you need. You don't. The heathens have their rewards for speaking their words outwardly before the Father. Father doesn't need you to speak outwardly. The Father knows. And this is what meditation is all about. The trick is dropping into it, and then all possibilities avail themselves to you. But you have to have an open mind, because the Father knows who you are.
Energy, unconditioned, unlimited, which is the whole, which is what we come from, what we are in substance. We are droplets. We are little individualized particles of God, you see, but we're always inside of God, because God is the only thing that's happening. Generation, operation, dissolution. So we could say that God is our higher self, but we could never say that we are God. You don't say that. You always complete the sentence with, we are God inconceivably, but with difference.
Yeah.
That's how the philosopher should stipulate his awareness of who he is, who you are. So if you don't know that you are God, when you go to court, for instance, and you subscribe to the Crown copyrighted corporate name in all caps letters, and well, you're already signaling to the judge that you've emptied yourself of your godship. And Jesus said, no, don't rehearse what to say when you go into court, for the Father will give you the words. Because, see, if you are the Father, if you are God, and you know who you are, that you are God with difference, then you're not going to play in that theatre. It's not for you. That's for the bullies in the sandpit. You let them squabble over money and matters of no concern, legalities, etc. So this is how important it is that we know who we are, and that we are God. You see, the subject of God really befuddles and confounds the masses. Even spiritual people, they're like, oh, why do you use that word God, Santos? I'm past that word, or there is no God.
And again, another truth. There is no God. There is only God.
Yeah.
You see? Because people think that God is somehow individualized apart from all of his of creation and time and space, you know, and locatable somewhere, you know, like it's God is everywhere because atoms are everywhere, you see. So atoms are what make the physical manifest world. Therefore, they come from God, counter space. We don't know what's there because it's empty. Like, you know, like a hard drive. A full hard drive full of data is not heavier than an empty one. They weigh the same. But there's a lot more information in the full one, right? So, and the files that make up that information don't actually exist in space. You can't go in there and say, oh, there's that file. There it is. Like a doctor can't open the body and find any emotions or any thoughts in your brain, etc. They're in counter space. So as the computer gives us information from counter space, the hard drive, so are atoms producing what we see, and we think it's all, you know, real and physical. Well, it is real and physical. Fair enough. But most people like to call it an illusion, you know, because, well, it's not. It's unstable. It's temporal. It's transient. That's all. The illusion is to think that it's stable, but it's not an illusion. Reality is not an illusion, as Einstein says, but albeit persistent illusion. It's real, but it's so unstable, and it's not rooted in ultimate truth. And that's the model we should have, the torus field model, because the atom is a torus field, and it has a plane of inertia. It has a hyperbola inside it, the hourglass, the inverse of the sphere inside the torus field. As Ken Wheeler says, you can't speak of torus fields without speaking of the hyperbola, and you can't speak of those two without speaking about the plane of inertia. You see, in the cosmos, the plane of inertia becomes the planet of Earth, because it's earthed, it's grounded. It's the only place where everything gets earthed. All the energy's earthed there, you know. They settle, they rest, crest, Christ there. And, of course, that's the heart, because earth and heart are anagrams of each other. And so the plane of inertia goes horizontally from your heart. That's why when you have a warm heart, someone will say your heart is radiating. You see, they don't say it's vibrating. The head vibrates. The liver sends out emotion waves, and those waves vibrate, right? But radiation doesn't vibrate. It radiates radially. So it goes in one direction, longitudinally. It's a longitudinal wave. So that comes from your heart, whereas the hyperbola going in is going in through the fontanelle, out through the perineum, and that is vertical, whereas the horizontal cross is in your heart. So when that materializes, our heart actually produces an earth. It is an earth. It's a plane where you are creating a cosmos, and you are peopling it in your heart, you know, with all your good memories and all your good emotions. You're peopling the plane of your own torso, torus field. You see, it's in the words. We have a torso. Well, right, it's a torus field. If you get a magnetic photograph of your energy field, you'll see a torus field around your body. Blue shift on top, red shift on the bottom. Colors of the rainbow, the 7 colors, straight through the middle of the hyperbola, with green in the middle. And that's the cosmos, because the plane of inertia is the planet of Earth. So really what I hope to have done with this interview is to establish that it's not so strange and weird and stupid to be a flat earther. It's quite intelligent. It's very, very consciousness expanding, and truth revealing. And you will know the truth, and it will set you free from these hocus pocus, nonsensical theories like the Copernican theory, which he discredited from the start, for he said none of this should be taken as true, but only to describe certain phenomena.
They all seem to forget that aspect of it. But like you're saying with regard to, the flat Earth model, this relates to every other single aspect of God's creation. It ties everything in. It ties what we're seeing in the night sky and how the night sky interplays with the stationary Earth below. It ties into human physiology. It explains why we have the systems that we have and why we operate the way that we operate. And this is something that you touched on earlier and you didn't follow through. And that's just simply because you understand that most of the listeners do understand your syncretism very well and understand the torus field. But at the very heart of what Santos is talking about is that ultimately within God's creation, there are two things. There is what is eternally stationary, and then there's movement. And the resulting phenomenon that occurs between this eternal stasis, this eternal non-movement and constant movement is friction, the Son of God, the creation of the Holy Father and the Sacred Feminine Mother, Christ Jesus. And this truly, truly explains what we see and why things play out the way they do on this earth. This is at the very heart of it, and at the very heart of all things. This is syncretism. This is what Santos says, this is the ultimate Holy Trinity. And again, that pulls us back into the three again. The Mother, the Father, and the child, the Son in the sky, and the Son of God. And this is the heart of syncretism. And at the heart of syncretism is this torus field. And if you take the time to watch, and I'll put this up again within the show notes, Santos's podcast on the torus field and the hyperbola, you will see not just that the earth is flat, but why the earth has to be flat, why it is positioned where it is in the middle, because of the very nature of a torus field. And if you don't avail yourself of this knowledge, if you don't understand this, then don't go running around calling somebody a kook because they espouse something that's different from you, and it's different from your beliefs because you simply don't allow yourself the ability to understand. Take the time to understand and proceed from there. But you don't call somebody out as a nut or a kook because you don't have the first idea what they're talking about. What is a torus field? Well, you better learn it because it's the basis of who you are. It's the basis of what this earth is and whatever the solar system is. It's the basis of it. And that's what I really, really would like in the remaining time that we have for you to just tie everything back together to this very unique core structure of God's creation.
Yeah, well, as to answer why is it so important from the outset of this presentation, that is something that needs consideration in conclusion, because why is it important? Well, if it's a lie, other lies can depend on that lie for the benefit of whoever it is who is telling that lie. And in this case, it's the globalists with their agenda of globalism to control humanity on a globe which does not exist.
So if we fall for one lie, we can fall for every lie. Why cater to a lie? Doesn't make sense. It can only harm you. If you're thinking, yeah, I believe in a lie, well, all right, well, I'll believe in it and it's a lie. Sure, there are times when you can't know. You can't know some things. And you just have to let it go. But that's not showing a lack of intelligence or running away from it. It's because you just can't know. But with the earth, you can know. Scientifically you can. All the tests confirm it. Visually you can, so you can use your senses. Logically you can, so you can use your mind to think about it. And so yes, it is important. Why is it so important? Because it's probably the biggest lie ever told, and they've pulled it off so well, and it's been very effective. And everybody's a globalist, bowing down to the false idol. Doesn't exist, but they're bowing down to it. Oh, we live on a globe. So it generates other nasty side effects, such as the religion of pseudoscience, which is a whole industry based on fraud. Why tolerate that? This is all based on the globe. You got NASA telling people that the Earth's a globe. They don't have any photos of one globe. They just can't turn the Hubble telescope around and just film the Earth for a while it's hurtling through space. No one's prepared to do that. No satellites. They've all got cameras on them. They're all high tech. There's telescopes out there. There's Osho telescope. There's Hubble. There's, oh my God, they're all over the place. Not one photo. Oh, yeah, they've got composite images, CGI images, but you see, we're told don't bow down to false images. And that means don't believe an image that they tell you is true and it's not true. A whole other area of life is involved, your moral standing, your moral fiber, your metal. What's your metal? What do you stand for? He who stands for nothing falls for everything, So it's of the utmost importance. It's one of the 4 teachings which I teach always as the 4 most destructive and harmful teachings ever. So the other one is the Jesus Christ historical Roman state church lie that Jesus was actually historical and factual rather than truthful and literary and metaphysical, etc. And then the eating of any kind of murdered corpse. And the other one is the sexual behavior of people, which is ejaculatory, where they squander all of their sacred fluids and actually kill themselves and commit blasphemy and sin against the Holy Spirit by even so much as thinking of ejaculating. It's such a these are 4 very harmful teachings, and they're all Jesuit teachings. They all are Jesuit teachings. They are the ones who introduced the satanic globe, the Jesus historical thing, so that all of these corporate churches are waiting for Jesus to come back again as man, as he never came in the first place. And then they give them corpses to eat. And then when they have their most loved and treasured and enjoyed pastime, sex, which is supposed to be enjoyed in a sacred fashion in tantric sex, you can have as many orgasms as you like, but as long as you do not ejaculate, instead of doing that and saving your seed and becoming a god within by raising the Christic fluids, they squander them and they're killing themselves. Both man and woman who partake in this kind of lustful sex. So these 4 things need to be, I'm preaching against them at every turn. Everywhere I go, these are the 4 that I absolutely destroy with great pleasure. There you go.
It's so important, Santos, because if you take the inverse of these 4 lies that you just pointed out, and you look at the flip side, which is the inversion or the truth of these 4 lies, what do all 4 of these things tell us, promote, and make clear? Health, eternal life, right? If you do flat earth, and you understand the very nature of how this creation via the true Holy Trinity of syncretism and the torus field, then you see that this is an eternal plane, that this is, we're dealing with eternal energies such as, the longitudinal waves of magnetism, eternal. You talk about, again, a plant-based diet, not getting sick, cells regenerating, regenerated man, eternal. The non-outward ejaculatory sex, turning towards the seven heavenly virtues versus the seven deadly sins. What is this promoting? Eternal life. Eternal life. And you go through all four of these aspects, and of course, the historical Jesus lie, versus then buying into that bullshit, and you understand and listen to the teachings of Christ Jesus, then he's saying the exact same thing. Accept me within you, raise me within you, for what? Eternal life. Eternal life, eternal life, eternal life, eternal life. For what? Big bang, random, you die young, you can't do anything about it, you don't count, there's only an out there, it's big, bag, old, ugly, and there's jack shit you can do about it. Everything that Santos just said, it says the opposite to this. We're a victim and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yep, empowerment. This is knowledge that sets you free but empowers you. It's very, very good to be powerful. And the most powerful man is the man who is not incontinent and incompetent. An incompetent man is an incontinent man. An incontinent means he cannot control his seminal fluids. That's why he hasn't been to a seminary, because that's what you learn in a seminary, how to retain your semen. And so incontinent man is one who's always spilling his seed, spreading his seed rather than saving his seed and tithing and bringing it back up and raising the Christ. So the most beautiful thing is to have the power to control the orgasm and to drive it up the spinal column to the head and drive it up at the speed you wish. In other words, to have a extended orgasms, right? So multiple. Right. There you go. But I like to call it a sustained orgasm. You see, when you're incontinent and you spill the seed and you ejaculate, you see these young boys that and it's all over in 2 seconds, and then they've got to recover by sleeping because they've lost all their consciousness and emptied their brain out. Well, they've just squandered a portion of everlasting life for a fleeting little bit of pleasure, whereas they could keep their energy, keep their consciousness, grow their consciousness, drive the orgasm up the spinal column, and with power, take as much time as you like and have an extended, prolonged orgasm, much more blissful than squandering it down below. And, that would add to their health and happiness, regenerate them. So if young men and old men can start learning non-ejaculatory sex, it's very easy. It's just you start doing it with your intention. You can get power. The greatest power, command of power, comes from being able to control completely 100%, as I've done for the last 7 years, the orgasm. That's power. Yeah. And then you have power to control your tongue. It gives you power to control your thoughts. It gives you power to control your emotions. And you become a Christian being by being totally in command and in power of your own vessel, and never lose the plot and lose your head, being competent.
It's beautiful. And again, these four sacred pillars, these four sacred truths that all share the same truth and all share the same message, which is that we are an individual expression of God. Therefore, we are eternal beings capable of understanding all that exists in creation, if that's what we want to do, if if that's our choice. It's the gift of free will. And the flip side of that, folks, is that when you believe in these lies, then you're a victim. And victims don't know jack shit. And what they do is they argue amongst one another, and they judge one another, and they never get anywhere. They just sink further and further down into the cesspool of success. Isn't that brilliant, right? The goal in life is to climb that ladder to achieve success, and cess is the root of a cesspool. The great inverted lie, right? Upside down.
Yep, exactly. Succeed. They literally do succeed in their cult, in their club. The elite do, on the casting couch, require literally succeed to succeed. And then they will success. They will be successful when they have a lot of success, because they'll all be in the same satanic, liberal, very, very polyamorous, promiscuous, illicit sexual behaviour, and it's a cesspool, and that's why you have to suck a lot of cess, to be successful. I've done a video on it. It's called "How Would You Like to Succeed?" I'd click on that video and have a listen. It's got some good etymology in it.
Brilliant. Okay, so your final thoughts to our audience who are out there and struggling with this narrative within the truth movement that flat Earth is had its time, it's come and gone, and now we need to move on to another model. What are your final thoughts?
No, it has not moved on. It's growing by the minute. It appears to, because of the algorithms on, in Cyberland. They are sucking like a vacuum. They are sucking the truth out of the system, you see, because it's hurting their system. People are waking up. So, and the first one to suffer is Flat Earth, because that is, they tell you, they've already told us that Flat Earth is one of the things that they're going to go after, because it's non-scientific. It doesn't fit with our, gravity model of Newton, and our recent, new kids on the block, Copernicus, Newton, and Galileo, all Jesuit demonic liars. So I would say to people, you better wake up real quick, because you're going to look like a real proper fool one day. You're laughing at us now. We get the last laugh. We get the last laugh. You get to look stupid because you're going to resist the truth right up until the day when it becomes official, and then you'll go, oh yeah, well I kind of, did notice that some of the flat earthers were quite, they had good arguments, but because I'm a fucking dickhead, I continued to be an upside down spinning retarded idiot, right? You will look like a piece of stupid dinosaur, Neanderthal, just ugly. You're going to you look in the mirror and you say that idiot was a globy, upside down, spinning, moving, wobbling, and you really will. It's, the last laugh. What I would suggest is, if you're on the fence, get off the fence and get on the right side and stop being an idiot. Okay? And why? Because you think that people are going to laugh at you and, they'll think I'm silly, Too bad. Too bad what people think. What they think, look at their diseases, look at their fat asses, look at their health and how ugly they are. And that's a result of their thinking. Look at their face. Look how stupid it is. And you don't want them to laugh at you. But when they laugh at me, I consider it a freaking compliment. Thank you.
Exactly right.
Thanks for the laugh. Bye-bye. I'm out of here.
Right, and did everyone catch how Santos earlier in the podcast, when he was talking about, you know, the nature of the ether constantly moving, constantly spinning above the firmament, and this right turning magnetism down from the heavens towards earth, and then this left turning magnetism up from earth to the heavens. And again, folks, if you take the time to research and understand what magnetism is, what you're talking about is an eternal system, an eternal model that doesn't end. You don't have to end. Flat Earth is powerfully leading you to the Creator. It's powerfully leading you to creation, and it's powerfully leading you to this message that you too can be eternal because you are an individual expression of the Creator. So you want to die, you want to be an electrical, carnal, left brain being, and you want to die young, 60 from a myriad of diseases, have at her. Your choice. That's not me. That's not me. And I will be here, Colleen and I will be here to show you our longevity by turning to the right. Those are my final thoughts. And I just want to say thank you again so much, because this is such an incredibly powerful and important subject. Like you said, it's one of the 4 pillars that have to be upheld. And we're going to come back next week with part 3 of the trilogy. And man, if we didn't blow you away in parts 1 and 2, we're certainly going to blow you away with part 3. And this is the Easter lie. Queen Ishtar, Nimrod, Tammuz, and the hellish trinity that these devils subscribe to. And what they do is they want to hide Passover. And Santos was touching a little bit on this in the podcast tonight with regard to meditation. So it's going to blow you away. And if you're still clinging to this globe model and all the lies associated with it, Santos will tear it all away. Will tear whatever's left of your house of cards down and leave you standing in the wind. But hey, at least you'll be free. So thank you, my friend. And I look forward to next week. And you're the best, my man.
Thanks, so are you, brother. And
so
look forward to next week.
Okay, thanks, pal. Have a beautiful evening or day, and we'll see you next week.